This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening. Welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon. Tonight it's Ask Us Anything night. So we're opening the phone lines up. You can ask us any legal question. We'll point you in the right direction. Maybe you've got questions about car accidents. Maybe you've got questions about fireworks this week coming up. If you had people over at your home and somebody gets injured by fireworks, can they sue you? If you're at somebody else's home, if it's a child, so many things going on, and summertime is a busy time. Lots of legal questions that you may have, so call in. The 31 Law Call number is 256-536-0077. And remember, you can not only call in and be on the air, you can text us now to that same number, so text your questions. You can also email us. Any day of the week, you send any kind of legal question to lawcall@waaytv.com. And when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some out. We have some of your Ask Us Anything questions tonight. Ask us anything. If you're a news junkie and a law junkie, there have been a lot of changes, legal decisions, some new laws out, and some things coming up in the next couple of weeks that we're going to talk about.
Right. So whatever topic legal you want to talk about, whether it be presidential immunities, because the Supreme Court's coming out Monday. Last week. They decided about obstruction of justice official proceeding, lower the standard for obstruction. If you got a call about that, be brave. Give us a call and ask your legal question. Sharon, last week, the Supreme Court lowered the scope for the government or the Justice Department to prove that the January 6 rioters were obstructing an official proceeding. It's not just enough to push your way in the building, but you have to disturb documents or provide some type of false evidence. So they're narrowing that. What does that mean to some of the folks? Huntsville's got a new cell phone law. In fact, starts June 1st. You can no longer physically support your phone with any part of your body. Some people interpret you may not touch your phone. However, I disagree. If you cannot support it with your body, you cannot read. You cannot send, write, or text. However, you can, I believe, use voice-activated devices. Okay. So a lot of people are going to be using, be using
Gizmos.
these. So if they find you physically supporting, your device, you can be found guilty of $50 community service after a couple of convictions of this. So, the intent is to keep drivers safe, because a lot of the things we look at are inattentive drivers, and it's on par with drunk drivers out there. So our firm prosecutes a lot of car wreck cases, and you can get that information. You can download the data from the phone to find out what was going on, what was streaming through that phone at that time. And with this many injuries, I think there was a councilman that was injured and it was a big sponsor of this bill. Mr. Little did a great job for this community. Let's keep people safe. I mean, let's face it, a lot of us use our phones when we drive. You shouldn't, I get it. But this law hopefully will remind people that you may not support your phone and keep people safe.
If you're causing an accident, it makes a big difference in somebody suing you over that.
That's right.
And we say, text us, call in your questions, 536-0077. We also like to start off the show with a video. We pulled some video off of YouTube. So in this particular case, so rear-end collisions are pretty common, but to catch it, a view of it like this from somebody's rear view camera, pretty telling. So we don't know exactly what caused this accident. If it's the person in front slowing down, then the person behind should have been watching. Airbags sometimes can do a lot of damage. I don't know how fast they were going in this. Airbags, if I get hurt by my airbag, do I need to see a lawyer?
Odd. When I first saw it, I was like, is this some sort of test where they made this up? But there's a rear-facing camera. You can see how the airbag comes out. And there is a products case that's been going on for quite some time, Dakota airbags. But a lot of the cases we see are rear-enders like this. It looks like this vehicle slowed down. And you always hear, if you're the vehicle in the back, you're automatically at fault. That's not really the case. Okay. However, you do have a duty to maintain a safe distance. You have a duty to maintain a proper or reasonable lookout. And usually when you rear end someone, you failed one or both of those duties. Obviously, keeping a safe distance when you collide.
Yes.
And from those types of wrecks, you got property damage, personal injury. How do you pay for medical bills? All those things. What does your insurance cover? If it's a no-fault claim, you've got insurance, what's called MedPay, to pay dollar for dollar for your medical bills for whatever you incur within, I think it's 3 years from the date of that wreck, depending on your particular policy. And so, when you're looking at insurance policies, I have clients coming all the time, hey, I've got full coverage. I want to find out, really, they just got liability. And that's all you're legally mandated to have. However, Comprehensive collision pays your vehicle if someone hits you, or you hit someone, or you have to get your vehicle repaired. And also underinsured motorists is one of the most important insurance coverages to get, because it's insuring you against an unknown risk of who out there, and 1 in 3 drivers is uninsured even though it's the law. I know, right?
Yeah, I know. They passed the law. So we've got callers waiting. We've got Margaret on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Margaret. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Well, I was injured at work and ended up having to have surgery. And I'm just wondering, I have been receiving workman's comp back to work, but what are my legal rights, I mean, for the future if this injury causes trouble down the road and stuff? What, you know?
If you mind me asking, is it an arm, a leg, a spine? What type of?
It was my shoulder.
Okay. And so what, so that you've gone to a workers' compensation approved doctor and you gave them notice, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And she's actually had surgery for it, she said.
Right. So if you're injured during the line of scope of your duties, and you're not involved in any type of horseplay, and you properly put them on notice, they'll send you to their physician. It has to be a workers' compensation physician. And under the Workers' Compensation Act, your body's actually, unless it's a whole body injury, like your finger's worth a certain amount of weeks. Each finger's had a different week. Your leg, your arm. So it breaks it down into different body parts, and it spits out a number after a ridiculous formula to determine, let's say you had shoulder surgery and you have an impairment now of 5%. They put that 5% variable into a formula, also with your average weekly wage, and it spits out a number of what it's worth. If it goes to the whole body and that affects your, let's say you're not back at work making the same or similar wage, then under those circumstances you may be entitled to what's called a vocational evaluation. So she didn't say what she did, but let's say she's a furniture mover, hurts your shoulder, now can no longer do that.
Yeah.
And then you have maybe a 5th grade education. What are you able to be trained for out in the job market? So your loss of job access plays a part as well. Now, let's say she heals up, the doctor says, hey, you're 95%, so you have a 5% to that particular body part.
Okay.
And then you would put that into a formula. Now you're entitled to 3 things under workers' comp. 1, all your medical bills paid for life. 2/3 of your average weekly wage, and if you suffer an impairment rating. So usually there's a settlement conference to go over the benefits, what you're entitled to receive, and then whether you're keeping meds open or closed. And I really warn clients, be careful and think hard about closing medicals, meaning if you don't have any, if you close medicals, they may pay you a little more on the front end, but if you have to have another surgery, you may have to pay for that out of pocket, and that can get expensive quick. So just see what they offer, they offer you with regard to your average weekly wage, with regard to your formula of what your particular injury is worth, but consult an attorney as well. But think long and hard before you close your medicals, because that could be a dead-end road for you.
We've got Alice on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Alice. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes, I'm just calling to get some information about what is the employer about medical insurance, like to get information about your medical history. Is there a law that they can't get that?
You mean can your employer get your medical history?
Yeah.
Ah.
You know,
all that HIPAA, all those HIPAA protections. Now, I don't know that your employer can require you to give that over. They're probably going to expect you to give some information about what you're able to do and what you're not able to do, but your medical history and information is very protected these days.
All right, so it's a particular area of the law. So let's break it down. If you've got over 50 employees, sometimes you got federal laws that come in and things like that. If you got under 15, so there's some thresholds that the true employment lawyers would come in and really school us on. But basically, Alabama is an at-will employee state, which means you can be hired or fired for any reason or no reason at all. But however, they can require a drug test, and so that would be an instant where they could get your medical records from that particular thing. They may decide not to hire you unless you have particular physical capabilities for that job, but then you start looking at Americans with Disabilities Act. Do you have a disability? Are you part of a protected class? And if you are, then you may, if you're discriminated against, then they may be liable for that. But can they straight up say, hey, we want all your medical records? I'd like to say no, but as an at-will employee state, they can hire or fire you for any reason. So sadly, the answer might be yes. And that's a shame and weird But given the strong laws on behalf of the employer in Alabama, that may be the case. And I'm gonna probably get some calls tomorrow for some lawyers. Dude, are you crazy? I disagree.
That's a good
so
question.
We'll see.
Talking
That's
to someone who specializes in employment law, I think it is a good question. We'll see if we can find out for a future show. We said you can text us. Okay, you're talking about the new law in Huntsville about using phones and that you can't touch them. Somebody's texting in, can I use the map feature on my phone while I'm driving? We all do that.
Right.
So does this law keep me from doing that?
All right, so the way I read this, the law is basically you cannot support the phone. So if you're one of those, you put it on your thigh, nobody can see it, you're looking down or whatever, you can't support it. That's breaking the law. You hold it in your hand. However, if you have one of these devices, then you may be able to look and point just like as you were on the dashboard.
Yeah.
But the important part that I read was supporting the phone. Now, I read a few articles that said you can't even touch it. I disagree. As long as you're not supporting it and you hit a Google map, then, but you can't read, you can't. But if you can't read, how are you going to read the little things on the... It's going to be interesting how it's going to be prosecuted, what type of information they can get off your phone to find out what you were doing. But again, if you're holding it or supporting it, you're violating the law. I think you can touch it, but time will tell. You know, we'll see.
Because what's the difference between using it like that if it's attached to your car and using so many cars
so if you're
now
here,
have a touch
if you're here
screen.
and you said, okay, here, I want to go here and here and here, but that's technically typing.
How's that
So
different
maybe I
from
need to
using navigation on your car that's actually built
so you can
into
touch
it,
that, but again, the law says you cannot physically support it, and so maybe that's going to be the delta, and that's it's a reasonable law. If it's sitting there stationary and you're punching in coordinates, that's still typing, so that's gonna be a narrow margin.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back answering more of your calls, your questions, your texts, and some emails. Stay with us. It's Ask Us Anything night.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call. Your rights, your calls, live. Presented by the Tennessee Valley's award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm, Timberlake, League & Brooks. Featuring the knowledge and experience of Attorney Michael Timberlake, Attorney Will League, Attorney Heath Brooks, Attorney William Maservi. And hosted by broadcaster and family law attorney Sharon Doviet. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. It's Ask Us Anything night. So we've got folks calling in, texting in. That's the new thing. You can call 256-536-0077. You can also text. We've got some text tonight and email. You can any day of the week send an email to lawcall@waytv.com. Jeff had sent this email. He says, in a wreck where both parties are claiming the other one's at fault, is it just down to the police report?
You know, the police report actually is not admissible.
Okay.
It's hearsay, out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted in trial. Again, if it's a disputed claim, it comes down to your version, their version, any independent witnesses. What was the traffic light? What was the traffic scheme? What was going on during that particular time of the day with traffic light? All those things factor in. It depends on what state you are. We had a Tennessee caller earlier. Tennessee is what's called a comparative negligence state, meaning that you basically apportion the fault between the two parties. Somebody's 90% at fault, somebody's 10%, then the at-fault party will have to pay 90% of the person's damages. So it apportions it kind of in a fair way. And in Alabama, it's a contributory negligence state. So you have to show that you were free of negligence. And if you were negligent even to the slightest degree, you may not recover anything. So it's a harsh law when you've got contested liability, motor vehicle wrecks. Because, we talk to adjusters all over the country on different cases, and they find out, okay, you're in Alabama. It's contrib state, contributory negligence state.
They like hearing that, don't they?
They love it, and they're much more aggressive. Yep. Oh, we don't have to offer anything because. And so when you try a case and the jury comes back and their first question is, can you please read that contributory negligence, jury charge to us? That's a sign that they're like, well, they were at least a little bit negligent. And that makes it difficult, and it's a harsh law. You got good people who didn't do much wrong. The other person's drunk, acting stupid. But if you happen to, let's say somebody's driving down the road drunk, going 100 miles an hour, and you happen to barely roll through a stop sign. Nothing, you really didn't cause the wreck, but you technically broke the law. Yeah. You cannot recover one penny.
In Alabama.
All your medical bills you're responsible for, all your own damage, all those things. And
completely.
Really, in the real world, you didn't cause the wreck.
completely different outcome in Tennessee,
right.
You're saying. With
and the
case.
insurance company, they're running the show down the State House. That's for sure, unfortunately.
We've got Greg on the line with a question from Park City, Tennessee. Hi, Greg. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yeah, I have a couple of mobile homes and a mobile home park that's been there I've been there for about 7 years now. And when I first purchased I bought my trailer, so I just pay the lot rent.
Right.
Well, the property owner now, there's been 7 property owner changes.
Wow. In the
Since I've
7
been
years
here.
you've been there.
Yes.
Wow.
And the first 4 or 5 were fine. Everything worked out fine. They took care of the park. They did what they were supposed to do. Well, these new people, we got holes in the driveway. If my sister came and she didn't know that the holes were in the driveway, her first time here to visit me, when she turned in off the highway, she hit one of those potholes and she got a flat tire.
Gee.
Now, that's the kind of holes that we have all through the park. They put dumpsters at the end of the dead ends that we have, and the big trucks that come and empty those dumpsters create those potholes.
Okay.
On top of that, we've got trees that are dead and laying in other trees. There were big branches that are 8 to 10 inches thick and a good 15, 20 feet long. Most arbors that cut trees call those widow makers. If they ever, with the wind hits it just right, it's coming down out of that tree.
Wow.
And I feel sorry for anybody up under it.
Yeah.
So you feel like, what's
do?
your question? You feel like the new owners are violating?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're making mistakes, ledger mistakes with their accountants. They're charging me. I've got trailers that are here because I'm retired military and my kids are military. When they decide to come home, should they decide to come here, then I've got someplace for them to stay because I'd rather be by myself. And that's why I bought the other trailers. And they've just been sitting there. No water service. I've been getting water bills of $100 and something for water at a lot that their own maintenance man cut the water off on back in January sometime.
All right, Greg. So you got several issues going. So let me tackle as many of them as I can for you. All right. So let's talk about the safety hazards of the trees. All right. If they're on notice of a dangerous condition, okay. Let's say you put the owner and say, look, this tree is leaning over, it's causing problems. Let's say there's an expert opinion that said, yes, it is a widowmaker, and something happens, they're liable for that. So your first step is put them on notice of any safety violations. But regarding the potholes, that's not a public road. In the public road, you can make a claim with that particular city if they're on notice of a pothole and it damages your vehicle. Most of the time, they're liable if you can prove those two factors. Now, with regard to private property, there's going to be a little bit of change. Again, it's a hazardous condition, but does it cause personal injury? Does it cause property damage? If they're on notice of a hazardous condition or something that may be dangerous, such as a pothole, they could be liable to you guys civilly. However, again, you'd have to see, what's the cost of making those repairs? What's in the contract? How often do they have to repave that particular park? So those things are going to come into play. You talk about the water, I would take that issue up with the city. Usually they're administering, the charges for water. And if it's cut off that property, it sounds like you're being improperly charged as well. Do what you can, put them on notice as to many violations as you possibly can. They may be in violation of some city ordinances. That may be an avenue to may help you out there as well. Sounds like you have an issue. And again, if they violate these things, you may want to talk to a lawyer and see if there's something, any type of recourse or any type of damage that you've incurred as well.
We've got Raymond on the line with a question from Decatur. Hi, Raymond. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
My question is about these phones being outlawed.
Yeah.
If I pull up to a red light and the officer is sitting there on his phone beside me, what can I do?
It's a Barney Fife citizen's arrest situation.
Right. You remember the citizen's arrest Barney Fife situation?
It is frustrating because we see so many people on their phones.
I tell you, you know, if the officer's on his phone, I think you're best not to say anything and just keep on rolling. You know, I mean, yes, you can go for the citizen's arrest, but I don't think it's going to end well. You know, they got their computers there, but the computer's being supported, you know, by a stand. And so under the law as it is, you cannot physically support the phone with any part of your body, knee, shoulder, arm, this, that, all that. And so, again, just make sure your phone is now secured under some, you know, some type of device if you're going to use it. Now, for clarity's sake, we're really not positive whether or not it's, you may not touch your phone. I believe you can touch it if it's being supported elsewhere in the vehicle. And so it's going to be a new law, but the caller, again, I don't know if I would go for the citizen's arrest. You know, but if they're next to you on the phone, maybe you want to run when you just, I don't know. I don't know if you want to really touch that.
Yeah, I don't know. And don't pull your phone up to take pictures because they're going to get you for that.
You can't do that either. You can't send video. You can't take video. You can't take pictures. So
we've got Steve on the line with a question from Decatur. Hi, Steve. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight? Hey, Steve from Decatur.
Yes. If you were on a cruise in some other land other than the United States and you get injured and you feel like it's their fault, what recourse do you have and what should you do?
You think it's the cruise, if you thought it's the cruise line's fault, or you thought it was whose fault?
In the other country?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Let's just look at it both ways. If it's on the cruise line, you get hurt, or if you go ashore and you get hurt on the land, say the Bahamas.
Right.
One of those excursions kind of things.
So, you know, we've had cruise line cases, and that's under some type of maritime law often. Sometimes in the contract, your contract basically will state a venue. Let's say you leave out of Florida. Florida law will apply. So you can agree to a particular venue or it's maritime law. Let's say it happens in a foreign country. Sometimes you're in a country where life is cheap and the civil justice system is almost non-existent. Depending on where you are, the laws of that particular country will apply. So depending on where you are, will determine what type of fairness and due process you can get. I was in college. We were playing, you know, through Europe. We were traveling through Europe. We're going into Czechoslovakia. One of my teammates from my college, we jump on a train and we shouldn't have. We're supposed to stay stopped or whatever. Anyway, they pull us out. Guns, you know, guns are drawn. The German shepherds are sitting there, and he's like, "Don't worry, it's a democracy now." Not thinking that we're going to Czechoslovakia and it used to be communist and all that.
Yeah.
So be careful where you go. And we didn't do much wrong. We were sitting at a train station. The train started barely going and we jumped on. We were supposed to be on the train, but anyway. But be careful where you go because it gets weird out there. And your substance, those laws. You may ask the NBA player who went to Russia with a little bit of marijuana and you know, anyway.
Locked up a long time.
It can be bad.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back answering your questions. It's Ask Us Anything night. If you haven't gotten your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Will League, Timberlake, League, and Brooks in Huntsville. They are personal injury attorneys, so everything from car accidents to medical malpractice. 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
And our own Sharon Doviet, family law attorney, 539-7337, SharonFamilyLaw.com. Custody, child custody, and domestic relations.
We had a picture from you. Where were you guys?
We did. So we went to Huntsville City FC game Friday night. There's Timberlake and Brooks and Mr. Brooks' wife Kelly. We had a big time. We had a character behind us all as well. So go Huntsville City FC.
Excellent. Thanks for all your questions tonight. We'll see you next week.